from the Jennings Communication Building on the campus of Dixie State University, this is Trailblazer Weekly, starring Carrick Segmeller and Drayson Ball.
Welcome inside another edition of Trailblazer Weekly on a Wednesday afternoon. We are coming to you live from the Jennings Communication Building on the campus of Dixie State University. I'm Carrick Segmeller. He is Drayson Ball, and we are ready to rock and roll with the latest edition of Trailblazer Weekly live on CEC TV, Radio Dixie 91.3 FM, and on the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page. A loaded show today. We've got viral videos, a Sports Center top 10 top play. We've got conference tournaments coming up. We've got conference regular season races. We've got basketball starting already. A loaded show today, and we are going to run the gamut. We're going to talk about each and everything that we can fit in the next 90 minutes. Again, I'm Carrick Segmeller. He is Drayson Ball. Cannot wait to get this thing started. A ton to talk about today.
It's going to be such a fun show. We've been looking forward to this show since last Saturday, and just the mania and the madness that took place last Saturday evening. And if you were living under a rock, if you don't know what we're talking about, stay tuned. In 15 minutes from now, we're going to talk to Caden Smith-Begrevich, who took not only the St. George community, but the entire nation by storm on Saturday evening, nailing the top play of SportsCenter's top 10 plays on Saturday throughout the entire college football world. We're going to talk to him about that play and just kind of what went through his mind and just the entire tidal wave that came after that play and the subsequent days and since then. So don't leave. Make sure you stay around for that interview. Can't wait to get that going.
Of course, football team with a 42-32 win over Colorado Mesa, a comeback win. We'll talk about that in just a minute. We'll talk about men's and women's soccer teams getting ready for the RMAC tournament. Both teams in the RMAC tournament. The volleyball team is in a race, currently third right now with 3 matches remaining in the volleyball regular season. A huge matchup looming against Regis, the number 1 team, not only in the RMAC, but in the newly released South Central Region rankings. Region is also the top seed there. So the Trailblazers with a huge opportunity to make some noise on Friday night with a trip that will see them play Regis and Colorado Christian this weekend in the Denver area. A ton to get to today, but as always, we started off with our weekend observations.
It's time for Carrick and Drayson's Weekend Observations.
Indeed, it is time for the Weekend Observations, and really this week it is the Weekend Observation. Drayson and I talked about the huge play that occurred late in Saturday's game against Colorado Mesa, the football game. Dixie State had just scored to go up 42-32. And like Drayson said, if you haven't heard about this or seen it already, we're actually not going to show the play during this segment because we're going to see it a bunch of times next segment when Caden Smith-Begrevich joins us on the set. But to set the stage, Dixie State leads 42-32 late in the fourth quarter. Colorado Mesa is kind of getting close to Dixie State territory again. And it's a 10-point lead at the time. It would have taken a touchdown, an extra point, an onside kick, and then either a field goal to tie or a touchdown to win.
Minute and a half left or so, thereabout.
Game. Hayden Bollinger, Colorado Mesa quarterback, is forced out of the pocket to the right, and he's just throwing the ball away. Can confirm. One of our actually student interns that works with us on this show knows Hayden, knows the quarterback, and he talked to him after the game, can confirm he was throwing the ball away. Did not get the ball far enough out of bounds, and Caden Smith-Begrevich leaps up, grabs the ball with his feet off the air, so there's no real possession, right? So it's not a forward lateral. He never had possession of the football, technically, by rule. Tosses the ball back inbounds, JT Anderson catches it, and this thing blew up. We shared it on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and that's why for you TV and internet viewers, you see that lower third right there. That's why the Weekend Observation right now is, Drayson, the power of social media. This thing, we shared it. I mean, the game ended around 4:30. We had volleyball at 6 that we had to get up to, so I was able to get it posted about 5 o'clock, and by later that evening, this thing had taken off. Hundreds of retweets and shares, thousands of views. And, we never really had an indication. This is the second time in the last 3 years that we've here at Dixie State had a play in the top Sports Center top 10. Trevor Hill for basketball was on there in 2017, 2018. When that happened, we got an email from the ESPN assignment desk asking if they could have permission. I guess it was different because we posted the video not only on YouTube but natively on Twitter and all the other social media as well, so they were able to just pull it off of there. So we really had no indication until all of a sudden all the text messages, everything started rolling in that, hey, it had been featured on Sports Center during the Saturday must-see segment. And so then, Drayson, you and I were tuned in the rest of that night waiting for the top 10, and the top 10 begins, and you and I are texting back and forth and talking back and forth about this, and play number 10 happens, and 9, and 8, and 7, and it gets closer and closer, and next thing you know, number 2 happens, and it's not number 2, but it is
number 1.
Number 1.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, just like you said, the power of social media. I mean, right now, the native post, the original post, the Dixie State Athletics Twitter page right now, that video has over, and you have all the numbers here, so I'm not going to get into too much of that, but that video alone has over 18,000 views just from the Dixie State Athletics Twitter, the original video that we posted. And then, yeah, like you mentioned, during that top 10, and I was there with my wife talking to her with with the TV on, just there waiting for the top plays, and as it got to about 6 or 5 or maybe even 4, I got a little worried because I was like, man, I know it was a great play, but certainly, it's a D2 school on a college football Saturday. It's going to be tough for it to crack into the top 5 just because there's going to be other schools, the big schools, the Alabamas, the Clemsons of the world that surely have had a nice play, and they're going to want to put that closer to the top. But I'm glad Sports Center is no respecter of persons, and I'm glad they made the right decision because it was an absolutely unbelievable play. And if you watch the original video on Dixie State Athletics Twitter page, when you hear Carrick and I just absolutely losing our minds during that play call, because I've certainly never seen anything like that. I mean, I've seen like hook and ladder plays that are designed offensive plays where you catch it and you pitch it, and obviously we've seen those kind of last ditch attempts at the end of a game where you're pitching it, laterals and that kind of thing. But I've never ever seen anything like this, to be able to go out of bounds and catch it in the air and then lateral it back to your teammate inbounds. I mean, I've just never seen anything like it. And so it is crazy to see what social media can do and to blow up this viral video to get it to the top spot on SportsCenter's top 10. Absolutely incredible play, and it was just fun to, going back to the top 10 while I was watching it, it got to number 2, and I just it hadn't shown it, and I was like, well, it's number 1. Like, they can't not have it in the top 10, and if it's not 2 through 10, it has to be number 1. In the video that I took, I didn't ever share it, but in the video I said to my wife while I'm filming, as the number 2 play was playing, it's going to be number 1. And we started freaking out, and it was really fun. So crazy play. Can't wait to talk to Cajun and get him on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, just incredible. And really that's the power of social media. The thing went viral. It's a shout out and a credit to Trailblazer Nation for all of you out there for sharing, for tagging, for hashtagging, just getting this thing out there and making sure that there was enough force behind this that really ESPN and Sports Center had no choice but to include it. And it's not just been on, it's been on College Football Final, it's been on CBS Sports, their show Inside College Football, it was featured on yesterday. It's been on multiple social media accounts. It has been all over the place, and by it's hard to find an exact number. By my count, just Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, I count nearly 100,000 views there. And then also I'm reminded that it also appeared on Sports Center. They did an Instagram post Sunday morning about college football's top plays from Saturday, and that's all of college football. And mind you, Dixie State is the only play out of 10 plays there included that is not Division I. So pretty incredible there. But that video on Instagram has over 1 million views right now. So this has been seen millions of times, and it's the power of social media that's able to make that happen. And certainly great exposure for Dixie State and for this Dixie State football program with the transition to Division I on the horizon. Incredible stuff. And, of course, we've spent most of the segment talking about this now, but not lost in all of that was that the fact that the Trailblazers trailed at halftime again, 42-32. they were able to come back in the second half, Drayson, and win it 42-32. Just something about the second half with this Dixie State football team that they're 4-2 when trailing at halftime. They're outscoring opponents in the second half 201-74 while being outscored 127-116 in the first half. And we've been told by coaches and players that we don't want to come back, but they're in those situations, and more times than not, they're able to come back and win. They're able to do it again on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about the Trailblazers and wanting to get down in games early and then having to come back in the third and fourth quarter, but they've been absolutely amazing in the third quarter. I think they're outscoring their opponents by like 125-21 or something like that. It's some ridiculous number, and they fought hard. I mean, one thing you could say about the first half was, it was really about mistakes. They had a blocked punt lead to a touchdown, they had an interception lead to a touchdown, and then that third touchdown where they were up 21-7 going into halftime. That you can just attribute that to a handful of penalties. Obviously, the one that sticks out the most is you had blocked a field goal attempt. You were offsides on that one, but then to compound it, not only were you offsides to give them the 5 yards necessary for the first down to make the drive continue, you also got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on that same play, which allowed them to get even closer to the end zone. 323 yards of rushing throughout the game. 220 of those yards came in the second half, and that is our Rock Canyon Bank by the numbers feature. 220 yards in the second half, more rushing yards in the second half than in every other game this season except for one. They gained 269 yards against New Mexico Highlands throughout the entire game, but 220 yards in just the second half alone, more than all the other games except for that Highlands game. So the rushing was absolutely tremendous. Seiji Luongo, 23 attempts, 185 yards and a touchdown. Darman Atoa, 5 attempts, 60 yards. Between the two of them, had over 200 yards of rushing. They were absolutely great. That was the biggest key for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, one thing that I kind of kept saying was that, the first half Dixie State had trouble getting out of its own way. And like you said, it was a block punt return for a touchdown. It was a tip drill interception deep in its own territory that led to a touchdown. It was penalties leading to a touchdown. But then they figured it out at halftime and played a nearly perfect second half. And like you said, the run game was a huge part of that. You mentioned 323 rushing yards. That is the most rushing yards for this Dixie State team since 2017 when they hosted Adams State at Trailblazer Stadium in October of 2017. Seiji Luongo, 2 yards off his career best, 185 yards on 23 carries it was at one touchdown, and then that touchdown was an 81-yarder that really helped Dixie State stay in the driver's seat and then helped Seiji become the career rushing touchdowns leader. And you said this on the broadcast. He is the Dixie State rushing king. He's the career rushing yards leader and now the career rushing touchdowns leader. So congratulations to him, and congratulations to this Dixie State football team. At halftime, it looked like it was going to need a huge effort in the second half, which it required that. They were able to come out, pull it off. And now the Trailblazers 7-2, 6-2 in the RMAC with a huge matchup at Colorado School of Mines. Number 8 Colorado School of Mines this weekend. We got to take a break. Again, Trailblazers winning 42-32. And huge matchup against Colorado School of Mines. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. We've got to run to a break because we have got the Sports Center top 10 celebrity himself. Cajun Smith McGrevich is waiting to join us next on Trailblazer Weekly.
Radio Dixie 91.3. We don't play that. Nope, not that. A big fat no there. That's what we play. And stuff like that. On St. George's only alternative, Radio Dixie 91.3. Oh, and from 9 till midnight, we play this. I need a one dance. And this. Radio Dixie 91.3 FM.
For over a century, Dixie State University has been shaping the Trailblazers of tomorrow by providing a culture of active learning, active life. With a paradigm of real-world experience mixed with cutting-edge technologies and rich traditions, we provide one of the most affordable educations in the West set against the most stunning backdrop on the planet.
right, man. Need you to go deep.
All right, I'll catch this one, I promise. Post route, back of the end zone.
Got it. Let's do it.
We may not always play good, but when we want to look good, we come to the Dixie State campus store.
Located on the second floor of the Gardner Center. We'll see you there.
Today's show is brought to you by the Dixie State Campus Store, the official source for DSU Trailblazer clothing, providing students with textbooks, as well as educational, office, and art supplies. Located on the second floor of the Gardner Center, the Dixie State Campus Store, proud sponsor of Trailblazer Weekly.
Welcome back inside Trailblazer Weekly. We are live inside Studio A in the campus of Dixie State University, and we are joined by Dixie State sophomore defensive back Cajun Smith-Begrevage as the Trailblazers defeat Colorado Mesa 42-32 on Saturday. Our first guest of the day, Cajun, thanks so much for making some time for us. I know you got some team meetings and more walkthrough and practice, and the life of a student athlete is busy, but we appreciate you making time for us and stopping by the studio.
Man, I appreciate you guys for having me, giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely. We love getting to know our student athletes a little bit better. And anytime you see a play like the one that we saw at the end of the game on Saturday, I think it deserves some extra discussion and some extra attention. Let's just dive right into it. Obviously, your play where you teamed up with JT Anderson ends up on SportsCenter Top 10 is the number one play on SportsCenter on Saturday night. Then it's picked up by a ton of other social media. I mean, it's been viewed, like we said, probably, the one SportsCenter Instagram post had over 1 million views on it. Tons of people have seen this play. Let's go ahead. We're going to take a look at it here, but what we want to do, we just want to take a look at this play with you. And we can't see you in the frame at the start of the play, obviously, but take us through kind of where you were on the field, what your assignment was on that play, and what was going through your mind leading up to that play, and then when you made the play. So let's roll the tape on this. We'll let Cajun watch it and just kind of explain what he sees on this play and break this play down for us.
So our key all week has been number 6. Our kid is a dynamic athlete. He's incredibly fast. He's been looking for him all game. Our DBs did a wonderful job at locking him down, closing that bank, and he rolled out and is only one receiver on his side, which was number 6 himself. So it was a cover 2. I got my deep half, and I see him release the ball. I'm thinking I could get the pick, but looking at the way the ball was falling, it looked like he was just trying to get rid of it and trying to get another play. Thankfully, you see right there, JT turns around just to catch his attention, kind of tip it back in, send him home. Is really what I was thinking.
I mean, at what point did you realize that hey, I can get this thing back into him? Were you already starting to jump? Was it before you started your jump? Or once you had the ball in your hands? I mean, at what point does this all come together? Because that's what we're talking about. Just it seemed like it was so natural, like almost like you'd done it before and knew that was possible. And it's just something you don't see that often in football. So at what point did you know that, hey, I'm going to be able to get this thing back in bounds and JT can catch it and we'll seal the deal? It
was really like a list in my head. Like I could catch it, but I'm not going to land in bounds. The way the ball was going out, it was out of bounds like maybe 5-10 yards before me. So, me and some of the guys like Aaron Simpson, actually, he's introduced me to the idea. Just like, hey, be ready. Because if that ball ever goes out of bounds and I'm right there, just tip it back in, we're going to call it. And I was like, man, we just got lucky. Preparation, an opportunity kind of met, and that's where it all happened.
I mean, Cajun, there's one thing. I mean, that's incredible that you've even talked about a play like that. To me, I mean, that's mind-blowing that you've even discussed a play like that. Have you ever practiced it? I mean, that's not something typically you're going to be doing in practice, but maybe just after practice, maybe someone's throwing it to you out of bounds and you've just practiced it. Have you ever practiced that play, let alone talk about it? Have you ever practiced it?
I can honestly tell you we have not practiced that play. That's just us being ball players at that point. For JT to be able to be aware for the ball just like that made the whole play. So
that's absolutely incredible. And let's talk about your reaction right after the play. Obviously, you were excited that you kind of got the game-stealing interception. You knew you guys were going to win. You were happy for the win. What was your kind of reaction right after, kind of maybe even when the dust had settled? What was your team's reaction? What were you thinking? I mean, were you thinking, "Oh my gosh, I just made an incredible play. This is going to be huge"? Did you have any sort of reaction like that? What was the team's reaction? Were you talking about it in the locker room? What was the kind of dynamic of your reaction and the team's reaction right after the play and into the locker room and that kind of thing?
I ran straight to JT. I was like, "You're amazing for catching that ball." I made a play, but he made it an even better play. He made an amazing play. So, I mean, I ran straight to him. You'll see it on film. I slapped him right in his head. I'm like, perfect. I turned around. He celebrated. He put the ball in there. I was like, wow. I turned around. The whole team was jumping. I was like, whoa. Like, that's amazing. So just to see the whole team run over, coaches jumping on me, coaches jumping on JT, offense getting on the field, everybody having time to just relax and celebrate, because it was such a really tense moment at the moment. Because if they scored, put one up, and now we got an onside, now everybody's still got to be on their toes. But just to have that sense of relief, like, now it's done. Like, they're done. So just to have that relief, I think me along with the team was just all relieved. So it was great.
We're chatting with Dixie State sophomore defensive back Cajun Smith-Begrevich here on Trailblazer Weekly, and I like how you continue to bring up JT, and certainly we're not forgetting his portion of this play either. And it just was an incredible play by both of you, as was we made clear on our social media posts, and that you guys teamed up for what really could end up being the play of the year in all of college football. So you have the initial reaction. After the play, obviously, I'm sure there's talk on the sideline. I'm sure laughing and joking and having fun in the locker room. Did you even think about initially that, hey, this could end up on SportsCenter in the top 10?
Not at all. No, I did not. Not at all. I just thought it was just going to be a blowover, like just another play, just another great play. But I really had no idea it was going to be this big.
So take us through the rest of that night. Then obviously it's an afternoon game. The game's, you're done, by 4:15, 4:30, the game's over. But of course, you're talking with friends and family after the game and talking with coaches. So it's probably 5:30 or 6 by the time you're showered up and really hitting the road. And we didn't get the first reports on that this was on ESPN and SportsCenter until probably later in the night. What was it, Drayson?
Probably around
8:30, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock,
maybe.
yeah. I think it might have been the 9 o'clock edition of SportsCenter, but we really saw the 10 o'clock version.
So take us through that. Where were you, and maybe what time of night was it when you got the first text or the first call saying, we just saw you on SportsCenter, and it was the number one play on the top 10 plays?
I was actually on the road back to Vegas just to go spend some time with the family for the weekend, and Blake Kilgore texted me. And he's like, man, we're down here walking down, and we see you on the TV. Like, they got the vision of you. Like, they're really analyzing that play. And I was like, bro, you're kidding. Like, I was just in awe. Really, I could not believe it. I was like, there's no way. And he was like, yeah, man, we just walked past like 2 TVs, and everybody's watching it. Everybody's talking about it. My mom, my sisters, all of them. I was like, wow, just really just shocked. Honestly, I have no words for it.
So that's later that night, and then it continues to run on SportsCenter all that night. Number one play, and that was the must see. That was Saturday's must see moments segment that you're talking about right there, and we saw that too. How they had your vision and what an incredible play it was. It was on SportsCenter all night, and then SportsCenter posted it again on Instagram over the weekend, and then just different social media outlets have picked up on it. CBS Sports Network had it on their Inside College Football program last night. I mean, first of all, you kind of just described your reaction, but what's been the reaction maybe from your friends and family, and just has your phone just been blowing up? You told me on the phone when we booked this interview that you don't do social media a lot, but has your phone, in terms of phone calls and texts, just been blowing up?
It has still found a way to blow up. Yes, it has. Man. Yeah, like you said, I don't really do social media like that. But I've gotten a lot of calls from distant family members, just like, man, everybody's so proud of you. You're doing something for yourself. Like, that number one on SportsCenter is amazing. And I was just like, thank you.
What do you say to that, right?
I really don't know. I have no words, and I still to this day don't have any words. And like a lot of the guys, they'll go ahead and play around. Like, what's up, superstar? You know, I get that often now. It's like it was just one play. You know what I mean? If anybody is a superstar, it's JT. Because if I don't tip that back in, and he doesn't catch it, it's just another play on the film, and it's third down. So
They would have
absolutely,
had one more shot.
yeah, exactly. So, you know, I was just shocked, really. But yeah.
Chatting with. Go ahead. We're chatting with.
Still it off.
Cajun Smith Bogravich, the football team, just absolutely playing well right now. 7-2 on the season. A tough matchup this weekend against Colorado School of Mines, the number 8 team in the country. And Cajun, you know, how do you guys? Obviously, this was a special weekend, a special week for you leading up to this point. You know, with the top play and everything. How do you guys now as a team kind of refocus? Say, hey, that was really cool. Those 48, those 72 hours after the top play was fun. How do you now switch the gear to say, hey, that was cool, but now we got a tough task ahead of us to try to go on the road and beat the number 8 team in the country in Colorado School of Mines. What are you guys doing to kind of prepare for them, and how do you just go into that matchup knowing that they're going to have this game circled on their calendar just like you guys were, because they came in here last year and the Trailblazers whooped up on them. So how do you guys go into a game like that against the number 8 team in the country?
Man, just being focused. I mean, we all seen the play, so you know it's over with, it's done with. We can watch it later. We got 2 more weeks left to finish strong, finish hard. So I think you know, on our defensive side, we're definitely preparing very well. We go hard every day in practice, you know, tackling, making sure all the little things. We understand that we're a great team, and we can be when everything's firing on all cylinders. But like the little things, such as just running off the field, even just getting to the sideline, running to the ball, making sure all 11's on the ball. Just the little things to try and keep discipline, don't fold, and to just keep going hard, no matter if you're sore, tired. You just got to keep going.
And already a good season on your hands, and you can go and make it even better with even with just one win in the final 2 games of the season. You'll set the Dixie State all-time win record in the Division II era, and certainly have a good opportunity to do that with the 2 teams remaining. Just talk about a little bit your time here at Dixie State. Obviously, you know, head coach Paul Pearson, brand new this season, learning a new system from him. Just talk a little bit about what your time here at Dixie State has meant for you as a member of the football team.
Outside, I think me and the guys it's been great. You know, I've met some brothers that I probably have for life. So, you know, I always have that connection. With the whole new coaching staff, man, these guys are amazing. They're pushing us to a whole different limit that, you know, we never thought we could exceed. So we're just going, and we're just going to keep trusting the path, and we just got to keep firing.
He is sophomore defensive back Cajun Smith Bogravich here on Trailblazer Weekly. Cajun, good stuff. I love hearing players kind of dissect plays and see what's going on in their minds as you go out and you execute and do your job out on the field. And just in the last 30 seconds that we have here, we want to play a little rapid fire with you. And obviously, through your career, you came here and you've been listed at a couple different positions since you've been here: running back, defensive back, and at the start of this year, I had to ask the coaches, hey, where are we actually listing Cajun this year? And as defensive back, and obviously doing very well. Who is your favorite football player, or someone that you like to kind of establish your game after?
The late great Sean Taylor, former Redskins safety. That's why I love wearing number 21 when I get the opportunity to. And that guy was amazing. He just changed the whole game just being on the field. He didn't even make a play, and he just changed the whole game. So that's just kind of the guy that I have as an idol and as a role model.
That's a good one. Favorite football team? I know you're from Vegas, so it's going to be the Raiders by default soon, right?
Nah, it's the 49ers.
Nice.
Hey,
right on.
That's a good one this year. I was a 49ers fan back in the day. Maybe I was more of a Steve Young fan and a Jerry Rice fan than just a 49ers fan. But good stuff. He is, again, Cajun Smith Bogravich, and teamed up with JT Anderson on one of the most electric plays that you will see not only this year, but maybe in college football ever. That was incredible. Congratulations on a great win. Obviously, that's more important than just the one play, and we appreciate you stopping by the studio with us and wish you and the rest of your teammates the best of luck as you prepare for Colorado School of Mines this weekend.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We got to take a timeout. When we come back, we will break down that very game as the Trailblazers head to Golden, Colorado. What will it take for the Trailblazers to go into Golden and knock off the number 8 team in the country? We'll talk about that right after this on Trailblazer Weekly.
You know, we may have started out small, but we were great. Families and fans rallied behind their team. The community cared, and everyone showed up to cheer. Now, we're bigger than ever. Dixie State is going to Division I.
Here we go in transition, and he throws it down with one hand. Lobs. Catch me. Touchdown, Trailblazer.
But at the end of the day, it's the community and fans that make us great. Whether you give $5 or $1,000, every dollar, every seat in the stands, every one of you can help blaze our trail to Division I athletics. Because this is our team.
I take the road less traveled, run free, unwind, unravel, someplace outside with lots to do. Green trees, red rocks, and don't forget that blue sky. The sunshine shining, sunshine pouring on me. Think I might just stay a while. Say hooray all day because the sun is gonna shine on me. Sun is gonna shine on me. Sun's gonna shine on me.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
Welcome back inside Trailblazer Weekly as we march on a Wednesday afternoon inside the Jennings Communication Building in Studio A here in the CEC TV studios, and we're live on CEC TV, the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page, as well as on Facebook and on YouTube and on several different mediums where you can find us. And man, what an interview with Cajun Smith-McGrevich. I mean, just so fun to talk to, and a great young kid who, the last 4 or 5 days or so has just been on top of the world right now, especially in St. George, and that play has been seen, like you said, by millions, by a million people at least, and so really fun to talk to him, and just so fun to kind of get his reaction and his just thoughts on the whole situation.
Well, he just nailed that interview, and that was perfect. And he comes in and just humble as you can be, and really just reminding us and that, hey, I wasn't the only part of that play. And I want to make a point of saying that too, is because when you actually watch the replay, I mean, yeah, Cajun, tips or throws or however you want to say it back in bounds, but it was a heads-up play by JT Anderson to be able to come back and be able to dive far enough and get his hands under the football and secure the catch. If you remember, right after the play, the referees actually got together and talked for a little while, and I think there was a couple of different things they were discussing. They're probably discussing the forward lateral thing, and they were probably trying to determine, did JT have full possession of the football? Did he cradle it against the ground? And no, you can go back and you watch the film and say, check, it's not a forward lateral, because Cajun never technically had possession as per the rule. Feet are off the ground. You can't have possession with your feet off the ground. You got to come down. So it just turns into a tip drill. And then as you can see JT Anderson get his arms under the ball and checks that second box. And the referees did the right thing and let the play stand. And just an incredible play. So incredible interview.
No doubt about it.
Incredible play. And it just has been fun thrilling, really, to see this thing take off over the weekend and into this week, and it's great exposure for Dixie State University and Dixie State football program, especially as you're finishing off a great year in Division II, and then you're onward and upward moving to Division I. So it couldn't have come at a better time for this program.
It's been really fun. It's been just, really fun 2 or 3 days as we've seen some of the different social media and, sports platforms pick up the play and ask permission to use it. And one thing we can't forget to mention, the CEC TV crew that got those 2 angles. Shout out to them, because without those 2 great camera angles, and I've said this once, I'll say it again, I would put CEC TV and the crew and the work that they do as far as the game broadcast and everything else that goes into it. I would put them up against any other broadcast team in the RMAC and probably a lot of other ones in the nation, and they do a tremendous job with their camera angles and everything that goes into it. Congratulations to CEC TV, because that's another big part of it, that they got the camera angles that we needed.
Well, let's not forget that those were both students on those cameras in the media studies department here at Dixie State University. I mean, if anyone can really appreciate that, Drayson, it's you and I. I'm a mass communication graduate here at Dixie State. Would have been media studies had they had that specific track when I was in school here at Dixie State University. You were part of the first media studies class here at Dixie State University, and you and I almost on a daily basis are able to use the skills that we learned here at Dixie State and honed in, and to know that, like you said, we take real pride in the quality of our TV broadcasts and our radio broadcasts and that video that you see, to know that those were both students, and most of that production is students. And they put in a lot of hard work and effort. And in this show, too, what you're saying, the cameras are being run by students. A lot of the stuff going on behind the scenes is done by students, and the social media is run by students. It's incredible to see, and it's a real tool. I mean, if you're out there and you're wanting to, go into TV broadcasting or, film or journalism, and this is the place for you. Dixie State University has those opportunities. So back to the football program. Obviously, we've been talking about the football program the whole time, so we're still on that subject. But you mentioned at the tail end of that interview with Cajun that, hey, now it's time to refocus. And I'm sure that was probably one of the first things mentioned. It's Wednesday now. So in the first practice on Monday, I'm sure Coach Peterson said something to the effect of, hey, that was really cool. That's awesome. But now we've got a job to do, because we go on the road and we play the number 8 team in the country. And, oh, by the way, for those of you that were here last year, we beat them on our field last year when they were undefeated, just like they are right now. So if there's one game that Colorado School of Mines has had circled on its calendar all season long, it's November 9th in Golden, Colorado, when Dixie State comes to town. And it will be a very tough, very tall task. Impossible? Certainly not. But it will be very tough, and Dixie State will have to execute the best game and play the best game that it has all season long, and play 4 quarters of football. No slow starts, no careless penalties. You can't do that against this team on Saturday, because it's going to take a near perfect performance to beat this very talented Colorado School of Mines team on Saturday.
And we said that exact same thing on the pregame show of last year's game. And like you mentioned, these guys are a great football team. If you look at it this way, of the last 20 games for Colorado School of Mines, the 11 they played last season, not counting the playoffs, and just the regular season games, and the 9 regular season games this season, which they're undefeated, they only have 1 loss in those 20 games, and it's against Dixie State. So you know that those players are going to want to get some revenge on their home field, and the Trailblazers are going to have to be ready. And like we mentioned, last year we said they had to play perfect, and they almost did play perfect. I mean, they had a lot of things going for them in that game last season. And this season, they might have to be even better, because this Colorado School of Mines football team is no joke. And they're going to be at home, where we had the luxury of being at home on our senior day last season. We're going to have to go on the road against Colorado School of Mines in order to defeat them, and they are a flat-out good team. 44 points per game they score on offense, and they only allow 13 points per game defensively. And while that may be staggering enough, here's the big key. Rush yards per game. 258 yards Colorado School of Mines gains. They only allow 47 rush yards per game. I mean, that's almost unheard of. They're the number 3 defense in the entire country. They are just flat out tremendous. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. It all starts with their offense, but their defense is no slouch either. Michael Zeeman, who was kind of their second running back behind Cameron Mayberry was their All-American. He's not played in the last 3 games due to injury, but they have not lost a step offensively. Michael Zeeman has been an excellent backup. Just in the last 2 games alone, 619 yards on the ground, 321 against South Dakota Mines last week, and then 298 yards on the ground against Azusa Pacific 2 weekends ago. He's got 881 yards on the season and 9 touchdowns. He's getting at least 100 yards per game, and that was first half of the season. He was behind Cameron Mayberry and was still getting 100 yards per game, and obviously the last 2 weeks have been absolutely phenomenal for him. So they don't have any drop-off between 1 and 2 running backs. Their quarterback, John Matocha, is the real deal, 75% completion percentage, 1,900 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He can also run the ball really well. 89 attempts, 440 yards, and 9 touchdowns. So just their quarterback alone, almost 2,500 yards of all-purpose yards and 30 touchdowns. 30 for their quarterback. So they are great at quarterback. They're great at running back. They're great on the wide receiver positions, and they have a great defense. It's going to be a tall task for the Trailblazers.
Now, there's one position that you haven't mentioned yet, and if you have an All-American running back that gets hurt, or we assume that's what happened to Cameron Mayberry because he played in the Western Colorado game in October a few weeks ago, and we haven't seen him since. And that's when that the next running back, Michael Zeeman, has stepped up. But if you have an All-American running back go down and your running game doesn't skip a beat, what does that tell you about that football team?
They got a great offensive line.
They have a phenomenal offensive line. They've got a couple seniors up front that help anchor that offensive line, and the Dixie State defensive line will have a very, very tough task. You know, it's actually going to be a very exciting matchup. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing most in this game, because you've got, I believe, still the conference leader in sacks in Dixie State. You've got a team that has, other than the Chadron State game, been able to get through and wreak a little bit of havoc, whether it's on the run game or whether it's making the quarterback make mistakes. This Dixie State defense, not just the defensive line, but it's been, you know, the linebackers and the safeties coming in on blitzes at times, and great calls by defensive coordinator Tyler Almond and those position coaches as well to put their defense in good spots. But for me, that's going to be the key to this game. Is, I mean, you could say in the trenches every game, but it's going to be whether or not this Dixie State defensive line can get through and can push back on this Colorado School of Mines offensive line, which has been so good this season. Can they put pressure on John Matocha, the Colorado School of Mines quarterback, and can they slow up Michael Zeeman, who, like you said, has gone for over 600 yards in the last 2 games, just the last 2 games. He's pushing 1,000 for the season and has appeared in every game, but really has gotten the majority of his touches in the last 2 games and is up over 600 yards in those games. This is a game where you saw the graphic on the screen a few minutes ago, where there's a lot at stake still for Dixie State. There's some that feel like Dixie State's loss to Chadron State was the absolute end to the Trailblazers' playoff hopes. That's not true. That's 100% untrue at this point. The Trailblazers were ranked number 10 in the Super Region number 4, which is the West Region and the South Central Region in this NCAA Division II football. They were ranked 10 out of 10 teams. They only rank the top 10. You got to get up to number 7 to get into that super region. So the Trailblazers, with a win at Colorado School of Mines and with a win over Adams State, you're still possibly looking at really making a committee make a tough decision. I mean, depending on what happens between Dixie State at 9, 8, and 7 right now, if the Trailblazers beat Colorado School of Mines on the road and then beat Adams State in St. George, and you're part of that committee making that decision, I know that there's certain numbers that they have to look at. I get that. but Dixie State will have certainly made a case for itself. So there's still a lot at stake in this football game for the Trailblazers. Maybe not necessarily a share of the conference title unless they get some help and something quirky happens in the last 2 weeks. But you're still playing for an outside shot at a playoff spot. You're still trying to get to 9 wins for the first time in program history. A ton at stake still for this Dixie State team. But what I will say that the Trailblazers should have the edge in, it's Colorado School of Mines that's undefeated. It's Colorado School of Mines that is ranked in the top 10 in the country and has the upper hand at a solo and outright RMAC championship this season, and to earn that auto bid into the playoffs and to have a better seed in the playoffs, just like the Ore Diggers had when they came into St. George last year. So the Trailblazers really should be able to go into Golden and play loose and say the pressure's on them, because if we lose this game, it won't necessarily derail our season the way it will Colorado School of Mines. So I think more of the pressure is on Colorado School of Mines. So Dixie State should be able to go in and play loose. And like you said, they're up against that tough defense. The Trailblazer defense will be up a very tall task in the Colorado School of Mines offense, but I think the Trailblazers are up to the task. I think you can see this offense go out and put up some big numbers. And yes, Colorado School of Mines has been very good against the run, but I think the Trailblazers have figured some things out over the next few weeks. And then you throw in what Dixie State has been able to do through the air, not only this year, but then what they did against Colorado School of Mines last year, could be another recipe for success. We'll find out.
Yeah, and one of the last things that I'll say, and one of the keys to this game in my mind, is you have to be able to do something well offensively. Last season against Colorado School of Mines, they were able to throw the ball everywhere, all over the field. Michael Sanders threw for over 500 yards in that game, and they were just torching the Colorado School of Mines through the air. You have to be able to do something good on offense. Either that's run the ball or pass the ball. Obviously, they're going to be tough either way, only giving up 188 pass yards a game. But if you can either run the ball and maybe get over 150, 200 yards of rushing, or you can pass the ball and get 300, 400, 500 yards of passing on the day, if you're going to have at least one of them, you have a shot. If you do both of them well, then you have a real legitimate shot to knock off a top 10 team on the road.
Should be exciting. Drayson and I will be there in Golden. We'll have the call for you on Radio Dixie 91.3 FM. Pregame at 11:30 a.m. Kickoff at 12:05. It is televised in the Golden, Denver area, so they'll be following the media format at Senior Day as well, so they'll kick off at 12:05. So be sure to tune in, Radio Dixie 91.3 FM or RadioDixie913.com, and you can listen to Drayson and I on the call from Golden, Colorado on Saturday. We got to take a timeout. When we come back, we take a look at our Blazer beat. We've talked a lot about football, but what's going on in women's soccer, men's soccer, volleyball, what's going on in those sports? We got conference tournaments coming up. We got conference championship races still going. We've got a lot to get you caught up on, and the other sports here on the Trailblazer athletics scene. We'll take a timeout, come back with our Blazer beat.
Where do you find the titans of classical music in St. George? Classical music on Radio St. George 100.3 FM. Where do you find the legends of jazz? Evenings on Radio St. George 100.3 FM.
Hey guys, how are you today? Good. I'm here to talk about how with technology you can make amazing worlds. Come with me. My team and I groomed the Halo world to life. Is that you? That is me. I wasn't a math genius, and I knew nothing about coding. But you guys do. You guys have the power to change things. I want your job. I want you to have my job.
Hey, what's up, man? Hey, good. You played before, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's all state in high school.
Good, let's run some routes. Give me a post route.
All right, let's do it. We may not always play good, but when we want to look good, we come to the Dixie State campus store.
Located on the second floor of the Gardner Center. We'll see you there.
Today's show is brought to you by Rock Canyon Bank, serving Utah businesses and agriculture for over 25 years, with locations in Pleasant Grove, Orem, Provo, Spanish Fork, Fillmore, and at 94 East Tabernacle, right here in St. George. Rock Canyon Bank, back to banking. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Welcome back inside Trailblazer Weekly on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon. And I can't go an entire show without talking about the weather. I've noticed that as I've gone back and watched the archive shows, which you can go back and you can watch anytime you want at youtube.com/Dixie State Athletics. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe. And that way you get all the notifications when our shows go live and when we post our promos and when we do all of that. But I've noticed as I'm just one of those guys, I guess. I always like to talk about the weather. And I'm just grateful that after that cold front that moved through, it has warmed back up and it is in the 70s again. And I don't necessarily have to wear a jacket when I go outside. So that is fantastic. Plus, it's going to be pushing 70 degrees in Golden by the end of that football game on Saturday. So we were worried about possible snow or bad weather trying to get into the Denver area and then get over to the stadium. Should be good weather on Saturday for that football game. What else is going on inside Dixie State Athletics? I know we've talked a lot of football. There is a ton of other good stuff going on, and we will cover that now in our Blazer Beat. It's kind of our Around the Horn segment. We talk about what's going on around campus, and let's start with volleyball, and I'll start it off. I'll get it going. I'll serve it over the net and get us going here with volleyball. They go 2-0 over the weekend, a 3-0 sweep over New Mexico Highlands on a Friday night, and then a 3-1 win over CSU Pueblo on Saturday. That was senior night, two seniors, Lauren Gamble and Toa Faleo, the two Dixie State seniors this year. Should note, Lauren Gamble picks up her 400th career block against New Mexico Highlands on Friday night, adds to that tally, obviously, Saturday night against CSU Pueblo. Toa Faleo was fantastic both nights, but she had a career high specifically, 21 kills Saturday night against Pueblo. Megan Trainer, triple-double machine, her third triple-double of the season Saturday night in that 3-1 win over CSU Pueblo. So the Trailblazers on a roll right now. They've won 5 consecutive games. Dixie State is 17-6 overall, 12-3 in the RMAC, currently in third place in the RMAC with this is the last full weekend of conference action. So the Trailblazers will go to Regis on Saturday and then to Colorado Christian. Regis Friday, and then Colorado Christian on Saturday. And then next week we'll have just one match against Westminster, and that will wrap up the regular season, and the RMAC tournament will begin November 19th. So the Trailblazers still trying to jockey for position right now at number 3 in the RMAC standings. But you've got a huge opportunity on Friday to go to Regis, which is currently ranked number 1 in the conference. It is ranked number 1 in the South Central region in those first volleyball rankings, which came out today and has the Trailblazers at number 8. The top 8 go. Trailblazers get in at number 8, and a win over Regis would certainly help the Trailblazers' tournament chances going forward in this season as you try to make the postseason. But that's where the volleyball team stands right now. A great weekend, a 3-0 sweep on Friday and a 3-1 win over CSU Pueblo to wrap up the home slate. The Trailblazers, of course, in position right now still to host an RMAC quarterfinal as well. So I think you'll still, unless something crazy happens, you'll still see the Trailblazers play at least one more game at home in that RMAC tournament. And they'd love to make it more than one, but a win over Regis would be huge in terms of that, and then in terms of trying to get into the postseason, even if you don't win the RMAC. So that's volleyball in a good spot right now. 5-game win streak. Hopefully they can keep it going.
They've been playing well all season long, and especially late in the season. One cool fact about Lauren Gamble, you mentioned it, but you maybe didn't give her the credit it deserves. Not only is she the only player in DSU career history with 300 blocks, now she has 400 blocks. She's the only player with 300 and now 400. Tremendous feat from her. Toa Faleo, obviously one of the most feared hitters in Dixie State history. Congratulations to both of those seniors.
So that's volleyball. Let's move over to the soccer pitch, Drayson. How about men's soccer first?
2 weeks ago on this show, I said as the Trailblazer men's soccer team was kind of hovering right there in that 6th spot, the top 6 go into the RMAC tournament. 2 weeks ago on this show, I said the Trailblazers need to start winning in order to solidify a place in that Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference tournament. and they listened. After wins last weekend against Adams State and CSU Pueblo, they had 2 huge wins this last weekend against Westminster, who was above them in the rankings, and then against Colorado Christian on Sunday, a 3-1 victory there, a 2-0 victory in Salt Lake City against Westminster College on Friday. That Westminster game was critical because if they won that game and then won on Sunday against Colorado Christian, they would leapfrog Westminster College, and instead of being the 6th seed, now they're the 4th seed because Westminster was up above them, and they ended up being the 5th seed, and the Trailblazers are the 4th seed. That was big because that gets the men's soccer team a home playoff matchup against Westminster College. So instead of having to go up to Salt Lake to play that game because you were 5 and they were 4, the win over them this last weekend leapfrogs you into the fourth spot, and now they're in 5th, and they have to come down here to St. George to play that matchup. Like I mentioned, defeated them 2-0 on Friday. Moises Medina scored a goal and assisted on the other one in that game. Like I mentioned, a big win, and then obviously the huge win over Colorado Christian on Senior Day. That one was really interesting because Colorado Christian was the last place team in the RMAC. So you're thinking, yeah, if they beat Westminster, they're certainly going to have another win in the pocket against Colorado Christian. Not the case, at least early on in that game. That was certainly not the case. Colorado Christian scored on a penalty kick in the 2nd minute. It was a minute and 10 seconds into the game, and they scored on a penalty kick, Colorado Christian did, and was up 1-0 for a large portion of that game. Dixie State ended up tying the match in the 16th minute, so it was 1-1 for the longest time. The Trailblazers scored 2 goals in the 89th minute. So, it was going to go to overtime for sure. And then the Trailblazers added 2 goals there in the 89th minute to seal the victory. Like I mentioned, they clinched the number 4 spot in the tournament. Will host 5th-seeded Westminster College tomorrow inside Trailblazer Stadium. A huge weekend for them, and 4 consecutive wins in a row. Hasn't been a good place going into the tournament. Maybe see if they make some noise.
Yeah, I was talking to Coach Broadhead yesterday, and he's excited. He said the guys are excited, and it should be a fun opportunity. So more home soccer. Head over to Trailblazer Stadium tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Should be a wonderful opportunity to come out, and it's RMAC tournament game. It's a rivalry game though too. In-state rivalry. Come out, support your Trailblazers. Be loud, be proud, and help cheer your Trailblazers on to continue on in this RMAC tournament. Let's stay on the pitch, and I'll transition over to women's soccer. Dixie State is rolling right now. The women's soccer team will enter the RMAC tournament this week as the number 3 seed to take on MSU Denver. But what did Dixie State do over the weekend? They just went and won 2 more matches. They had a 1-0 win at Colorado Mesa on Friday, and you want to talk about I don't know what's the word, but just kind of anticlimactic ending, I guess, to this game. Dixie State outshoots Colorado Mesa 20-5 in that game. They're just pelting the Colorado Mesa goal and the keeper, and 6-1 advantage in shots on goal, but they did not break through. How did they win this match? It was an own goal in the 81st minute that was the difference. Dixie State able to win that one 1-0. Then they kind of took out some of their frustrations Sunday with a 4-0 win over Western Colorado. Both those games played in Grand Junction, by the way, as Western Colorado finishes construction on its new soccer complex and soccer field. Kelsey Cook, might as well call her Kelsey Goal. Kelsey Cook scored the first 2 Dixie State goals, one in the first half, one early in the second half for the Trailblazers. Cammie Hunter a goal later in the second half to take a 3-0 lead, and then the Trailblazers would get, yes, another own goal to their credit to finish that one 4-0 win for the Trailblazers on Sunday, outshooting the Mountaineers 28-2 and 11-1 advantage in shots on goal. I've got a number for you here that is going to blow your mind, and I have to give credit where credit is due. Dixie State Associate Athletic Director for Media Relations, Steve Johnson, tipped me off to this one, so I don't want to play this off like it's my stat that I saw first. He was telling me about it earlier today. Got to give credit where credit is due. Good job, Steve, finding this one. Dixie State's first goal of the regular season this year against Cal State San Bernardino, own goal. Dixie State's final goal of the regular season this year, of all the goals that they scored throughout the year, final goal of the regular season, own goal.
Wow.
Coming against Western Colorado.
That's unbelievable.
And the conversation that Steve Johnson and I were having was, and what he was saying was, I don't know that anyone could say that maybe has ever happened in NCAA soccer before. I mean, who knows? Been playing the sport a long time.
It's certainly not a stat you track.
Not a stat that you track.
In mind,
you have to do a heck of a lot of research to find that one. But first regular season goal was scored on an own goal, and the final regular season goal was scored on an own goal. Just kind of an interesting tidbit to have some fun. Women's soccer, all RMAC teams were announced yesterday. Whitley Johns, first team all RMAC. Kelsey Cook, second team all RMAC. And then Kylie Alsup, Alexa Ashton, Adele Brown, and Sophie Stewart landing honorable mention honors. Dixie State finishes the regular season 10-3-4 overall, 8-2-3 in the RMAC. Again, that number 3 seed. And they will go to Golden. They'll be in Golden this weekend as well. They'll take on MSU Denver on Friday. And then if they win that game, they'll continue to play. They'll play the semifinal in Golden if they advance to the semifinal. Should they advance to the final round, it will be played at the highest remaining seed after those 2 semifinals. So the Trailblazers still technically not, unable to host some round of the RMAC tournament, but it would take 2 wins in Golden plus the number 1 team in the country in UCCS losing before the final for the Trailblazers to host the final. But still technically at this point, not impossible for the Trailblazers to do so. So women's soccer on fire right now, and they'll go and they'll play in the RMAC tournament just like the men, and hope that you can see some wins going forward. Before we forget, we need to name our Campus Store Player of the Week, and I'm going to call it Players of the Week. We went back and forth on the broadcast and said at football on Saturday, and who's it going to be? I think we said Sajay was our Player of the Week, Player of the Game during the game. As far as our Campus Store Players of the Week, I'm going to go Sajay Luongo and Jalen Powell. Sajay goes 23 carries, a season high, almost a career high, 185 yards rushing and a touchdown. Jalen Powell, 8 catches, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns, and both of his touchdown catches were electric. The one in the first half where he had to spin and catch and got it inside the pylon, and then the catch and run where you can hear me on the broadcast in the second half saying, well, maybe the Trailblazers can get into field goal range and James Baird can make a field goal. No, Jalen Powell caught a pass across the middle and then zoomed away from 2 Colorado Mesa defenders to score. So those are your Campus Store Players of the Week.
No arguments from me. Both those players were absolutely key in the Trailblazers' victory over Colorado Mesa. Jalen Powell, like I mentioned on the broadcast, was kind of just that guy they went to when they needed a big play. He was always there. He was consistent. Of course, Sajay Luongo was good as always, over 180 yards rushing. He was great.
Should mention also, before we go to break here, I know we're a little bit over, we need to go to break, but also if we're talking about Blazer Beat, we're talking about things going on around campus. Next Wednesday, we'll have another show. No, I'm just kidding. We have a show every Wednesday. Next Wednesday, the 13th of November, is the Human Performance Center ribbon cutting ceremony. This thing is just about complete, just about ready to have not only the academic side going, but the pool and the workouts and the basketball court. They'll have that ribbon cutting ceremony at 1:30 over at the HPC, and then from 2 to 4, just open tours to the public. So you can go and you can take a tour if you want from 2 to 4, and that will be fun. The very next day, on the 14th, they're actually going to allow anyone from the community to come in and use the facility if they want to. So come on in. That'll be a great opportunity for you as well. But that's next week. I was in it last week to take some pictures of the pool, and I think they may have undersold how awesome. No, they really didn't. But just in awe as I walked into that building, and it will be a game changer for Dixie State, especially transitioning to Division I, not only for the athletic side, but the academic side as well. That is your Blazer Beat. We have got to take a timeout. When we come back, it's hoops. The ball is bouncing inside the gym. You can hear the shoes squeaking, and both the men's and the women's teams are going on the road to open the regular season. We'll tell you where. We'll give you some previews on both basketball teams coming up next on Trailblazer Weekly.
You know, we may have started out small, but we were great. Families and fans rallied behind their team. The community cared, and everyone showed up to cheer. Now we're bigger than ever. Dixie State is going to Division I.
Here we go in transition, and he throws it down with one hand. Loves. Catch me. Touchdown, Trailblazer.
But at the end of the day, it's the community and fans that make us great. Whether you give $5 or $1,000, every dollar, every seat in the stands, every one of you can help blaze our trail to Division I athletics. Because this is our team.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
No, I don't actually. No, I'm not busy right now. Yeah, I can talk.
We may not always play good, but when we want to look good, we come to the Dixie State campus store.
Located on the second floor of the Gardner Center. We'll see you there. Welcome back inside Trailblazer Weekly on a Wednesday afternoon as we march forward live on Trailblazer Weekly on CEC TV, the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page, as well as Radio Dixie 91.3 FM. And we are into basketball season. I can't believe that it's already here. NCAA basketball has started and officially kicked off.
I feel like it's September still.
Right? I can't believe it officially kicked off yesterday in the Division I level, and they had the marquee matchups there, and Duke and Kansas and Michigan State and
do you follow
and
Ken Pomeroy on Twitter?
I do not know.
He just a big NCAA basketball talking head, and he tweets out as each undefeated team loses. So even from day one, only this many undefeated teams remaining. Sorry, such and such team, and only this so many. And it's just funny. Day one, and he's already tweeting that out. But it was an exciting day, and I can't believe basketball is starting. Like I said, I feel like it's still September, except for the fact that when we go out from finishing this show here, it's going to be pretty much dark outside. We have the time change to thank for that. But the shoes are squeaking, the ball is bouncing inside the gym, and it is time. It's that crossover season where, football is in the thick of things here, going for a huge matchup this weekend, and now we got both men's and women's basketball playing this weekend. I don't know quite how to handle it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really snuck up upon us just like it does every year. It seems like we were saying the exact same thing last year at this time, that we can't believe that college basketball is already starting, but it is upon us. The Trailblazers got things going officially, unofficially, as far as the NCAA season goes, but with their red and white matchup they had just the other day, and we were able to go to that game, or go to that event. I guess I won't call it a game because it wasn't really a game, but we're able to see the men scrimmage each other and the women scrimmage each other, and just a little bit of a 3-point contest, a little bit of a dunk contest, and just kind of get to know and meet the team type of atmosphere, and had a pretty good attendance there. It was pretty fun to actually kind of officially kick off the season. It's something that's kind of new to this program, but it was something kind of fun that we were able to go to and get to meet this team and get really excited for the upcoming seasons.
Yeah, it is something that will grow each year, especially with this move to Division I. It's an event that will grow and get bigger and bigger, and I think it's important, not only to the teams, but to the community to be able to be reminded it's basketball season. It's time to come out and support your team. And like you said, it was a great turnout. The scrimmages I thought were fun. I saw some good things from both teams. The contests were fun. In fact, I think we have some video from one of the contests.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. That's Frank Stain shooting there for the men's basketball team. Who's that shooting with him though? In that 3-point competition for you TV and internet viewers. That's me.
Oh no.
I was on fire. We got into the second round. and we made the first 5 shots we took. Of course, we're going to cut the video right here so that you don't see my miss after that. But we made our first 5 shots, and the way that the three-point competition was explained to me was you have to make 1 shot from from all 5 stations, and then that was it. That's all they said. So if the video were to continue to run, I cut it off because I didn't want anyone to see me missing the next shot.
Of course.
But if we actually completed the first 5 shots before the team that we were competing against, and so I stop. You actually see in the video, I stop, and Frank, he's going to be, we'll talk about him in just a minute. He's a freshman for Dixie State men's basketball. Great kid, great player. He's like, Carrick, you got to keep going. We're still competing. And that lull, that lag gave the other team time to hit a couple of shots, and we bowed out in the second round. But it was fun. In that three-point competition, every player was teamed up with either a staff member or a friend. It couldn't be a teammate. It couldn't be someone that was on the team. Although we saw some, I don't know, borderline things with that women's team. You had one of the women's players brought down Julian Decree, who's not necessarily a three-point specialist, but he's a pretty good three-point shooter when you let him have the green light. And so Deshka Olsen shoots with him. Allie Franks brings her sister down, who's not playing this year, Kylie. She's back on campus and in school, and we're glad to have her around. But she comes down and she's essentially a college basketball player, and so we had some borderline things going on there. And it was actually the women's team that did win that competition. But it was fun, and like I said, the best part about it was the opportunity to get a first look at each team. And Drayson, let's just take a look at each team now. We'll start with the women, since that was that's the order they went in on the other night at Burns Arena. They came out and they scrimmaged, and this is a team with a lot of new faces. And Dixie State had some players decide they didn't want to play anymore. They had a couple players transfer, and so now you're looking at your returners are Allie Franks, Maddie Loftus is back, Kesley Stevenson, London Pavlika, Kelsey Barker's back. She redshirted last year, did not play at all. But those are your 5 returners. And then Deshka Olsen is back. She redshirted last year also. Those are your 6 returners if you want to count the red shirts. And other than that, brand new faces. But here's what I saw the other night. We don't necessarily want to go out and give a scouting report on what these teams in Texas are going to see from the Trailblazers this weekend, but I'll tell you what I saw. I saw physical, good post play. I saw post players who weren't afraid to kind of be physical inside and get rebounds. I saw great outside shooting. Saw great ball handling, and I saw a very talented women's basketball team that I think is going to be able to make some noise. They were picked to finish 9th in the RMAC preseason poll. I would be shocked if this team finishes 9th. I think they're going to be much better than that.
Oh, yeah, and you hit the nail on the head when you said that this is a very talented team. I almost say that's an understatement. This is an extremely talented team. I think this, like you mentioned, it has a team that has upset written all over them as far as just being able to overperform based on that preseason poll in which they were voted 9th. That's where they finished last season at the end of last year. But if you remember, towards the end of last season, they really made some momentum. Let's go back. The first RMAC game they played was against Westminster up in Salt Lake City, and they got run out of the gym. They lost by, I think, it was 27 points.
It was close. It was close.
It was
into
close.
The third quarter, and
the fourth quarter, they got absolutely run out of the gym. And then the last game of the season was against Westminster at home, and the Trailblazers beat them on their senior day. So a huge transition over the season to where they weren't that great coming into the year, but they eventually molded and developed into a good team and made a run there at the end of the season. They finished, like I mentioned, in 9th in the lower half there of the RMAC, but they were one game back of finishing in 6th place, tied for 6th place. there was a handful of teams there that was tied above them. And like I said, one game back of finishing in 6th, which would have gotten you a berth into the RMAC postseason tournament. So, like you said, a very, very talented team coming into this. Allie Franks, Kesley Stevenson, London Pavlica, the key returners from that team last season, and a couple of newcomers, Brianna Moai and Ashley Greenwood, a transfer from BYU, who actually played for them last season on the BYU women's basketball team in Ashley Greenwood. A very, very talented team that's going to surprise some people this season.
100%. And let's not forget, too, I'm glad you mentioned how close the Trailblazers were to the RMAC tournament last year, because this is a team that was just a game and a half out of that RMAC tournament, and you can go back and you can actually look at 3 or 4 games that the Trailblazers had a double-digit lead second half and just were unable to hold that lead. This is a team that they knew they were talented going into last year. There was some things that, maybe lack of experience or whatever it may be, that they just had some trouble finishing games last year. They'll look to be able to do that, start well, but also finish well and make some noise in the RMAC this season. They've got some talented freshmen as well, and it's almost like you don't want to leave anybody out, but you mentioned Ashley Greenwood, you mentioned Brianna Moiai coming in as transfers for this team. Chesney Stevens is another great transfer, Michaela Johnson, but they've got a very, very talented class of freshmen. Emily Isaacson from Box Elder High School, Maggie McCord from up in northern Utah, Brianna Gillen from up in northern Utah, and I know I'm missing some, but their freshmen that they brought in this year are extremely, extremely talented. So you're going to see them make some noise and get out on the floor. You saw a lot of freshmen play last year too, like a London Pavlica type player. You're going to see even better freshmen out on the floor this year, and it's going to be fun.
A women's basketball team that has been getting better each and every year under head coach J.D. Gustin. He's done a tremendous job. Hats off to him for improving this team year over year.
Let's talk about the men's. Well, let's mention first. Sorry, I should mention the women's basketball team going down to Wichita Falls, Texas. Midwestern State is the host school for this round robin down there. The Trailblazers will play UT Tyler Friday, and then they will play the host Midwestern State on Saturday. That's a 1 p.m. Central Time, so I believe noon here in Utah on Friday, and an 8 p.m. Central Time, so 7 p.m. Utah time on Saturday. If you want to follow that game, go to the DixieStateAthletics.com, go to the schedule, and just live stats for the game Friday, and then there will be live streaming for the game Saturday. Should note, though, we have been made aware it is pay-per-view, so you need to be prepared to pay a little bit if you're going to want to watch that game. The men will be on the road also. They'll go up to Salt Lake City to Westminster to take on a couple of teams, and then we'll tell you who they'll play here in just a few moments. But this men's basketball team, Drayson, I think going over the summer, there may have been even more question marks than this women's team, because you had some very, very talented players. You had thought coming back, and your Matt Conway, your team leader, your Zach Frampton, and then they're not coming back. And, that hurts. And then you're trying to figure out who your key returners. So you have a Jack Pagankoff coming back. You have Andre Wilson coming back. You have Cameron Chatwin coming back. You have Josh Newbold, Jacob Nichols, guys like that. They didn't play very much last year. They're going to play roles this year. But I think the question mark was, who are the Trailblazers going to be able to add so that they can compete? And we saw some talent out on the floor Monday night during the red and white scrimmage.
Yeah, we definitely did, and we were just raving about a new kid that came in, Zubair Saeed. You're going to hear a lot of his name this season on the broadcast and around the men's basketball team. He is a sharpshooter from 3. He's a very athletic kid. I mean, he only stands about maybe 6'1" or 6'2" off the ground. He's absolutely unbelievably athletic, and you just have to see him to understand what I mean. He can shoot the 3 as well as anyone I've ever seen. We didn't see him hardly miss in that little scrimmage there they had a few days ago. And like you mentioned, a team that is bringing in a lot of kind of unknowns. It might be kind of a rocky start for this basketball team going into the season, but if there's one thing that we've learned about John Judkins over the course of his tenure here at Dixie State University, is it doesn't matter who you put out on the floor. Coach John Judkins is a genius. He can mold and instruct and develop a team regardless of who they have. If they have a number 1 scorer or a top guy like a Trevor Hill, or if they don't really have a deep team, if they have just several different guys that are unknown, you know that he's going to be able to shape and mold them into the team that he wants them by the end of the season. A team that last season finished in second place in the RMAC behind Colorado School of Mines, and I expect them to be able to compete with that top seed there in the RMAC tournament towards the end of the season as well, with Colorado School of Mines and the others that will be right there with them, because I've learned to never doubt a team that Coach John Judkins puts onto the field each and every year, even though they may not have that number one marquee guy like a Trevor Hill or like a Matt Conway they had last season, because he's really, really good at what he does.
Yeah, and want to mention just one more name too. Hunter Schofield, 6'8", 225-pound center transferring from Salt Lake Community College. He's tall. He gets it done inside. Can shoot the ball as well. So you're going to see a lot of those guys. There are multiple guys on this team that can shoot the three. Over the last few years, you've seen only maybe two guys that can really shoot the three consistently. I think that's the difference you're going to see this year, is there are a handful of guys that could be out on the floor at one time that can spread you out. Dixie State won't be the biggest team, we can tell you that, but there will be shooters out on the floor, and you're going to see multiple options in that regard. We want to let you know where Dixie State will be this weekend and who they will play. They're going up to Westminster to Salt Lake City. Friday, they will take on Texas A&M Commerce at 5:30, and then Saturday at 5:30, they'll play UT Tyler. So the men's and women's basketball team actually playing teams from Texas, just in different locations. So that's it. Basketball is underway starting Friday, and we'll have full recaps and analysis from what we saw from this basketball team on next week's show. Hard to believe, but basketball is up and running, and we are going to have much more to talk about over these next few weeks about this men's and women's basketball team. We got to take one final break. When we come back, we will wrap up this week's show, give you some thoughts from throughout the show, and we'll name and show you again our Honolulu Grill highlight of the week. We talked a lot about it. We'll show it to you one more time. We'll do that, and we'll wrap this thing up on the other side of this final timeout on Trailblazer Weekly.
There is a place where the sun doesn't hide in the winter, where the greens stay green and the crimson canyons still glow. There is a place where dimples determine destiny, and a tiny wooden tee holds the outcome in the balance. There is a place where we drive for show, putt for dough, and settle the score with another round. There is a place.
Radio Dixie 91.3. We don't play that. Nope, not that. A big fat no there. That's what we play. And stuff like that. On St. George's only alternative, Radio Dixie 91.3. Oh, and from 9 till midnight, we play this. I need a one dance. And this. Radio Dixie 91.3 FM.
I got you right where I want you. I make this one, it's over. I win.
No pressure. Bring it.
We may not always play good, but when we want to look good, we come to the Dixie State campus store.
Located on the second floor of the Gardner Center. We'll see you there.
Today's show is brought to you by Honolulu Grill, bringing you a variety of Hawaiian and other Polynesian foods. Honolulu Grill's unique tropical taste will leave your mouth watering for more. Located at 706 700 South in St. George. Honolulu Grill. Come feast with us.
Welcome back inside Trailblazer Weekly one final time on this Wednesday afternoon. I'm Carrick Segmiller. He is Drayson Ball, and we get set to wrap up this week's edition of Trailblazer Weekly. Been a great show today. I want to thank all of our sponsors. This segment brought to you by Honolulu Grill, obviously, and we'll have our Honolulu Grill highlight of the week here in just a moment. But also want to thank Rock Canyon Bank. We want to thank Dixie State Campus Store. We want to thank Cajun Smith-Begrevich for stopping by on the show today. Phenomenal interview with him. If you missed it, don't worry. We'll get that. The show will be archived here. You can go back and watch it later this evening, and then we'll get that interview of him posted tomorrow on the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page. I want to give a big shout-out before we forget to our radio and TV crews here, Radio Dixie 91.3 and CEC TV, for helping us get on the air and stay on the air throughout the broadcast. Great show today, and we are going to wrap it up. Let's show you, and we're going to show you, and actually it does have audio, the clip, so you radio listeners will be able to hear exactly what you heard if you were listening to the radio on Saturday. We'll set the stage for you again. If you missed it, we had Cajun Smith-McGrevich on the show earlier. Dixie State had just scored in the football game against Colorado Mesa on Saturday to go up 42-32. Mesa's driving near midfield. It's third down. There's about, Drayson, about a minute and a half?
Minute and a half, I'd say about 90 seconds or so.
90 seconds left in the game. And it's still at a point where, you've got a 10-point lead, but if Colorado Mesa scores, and we saw them score pretty quick a couple times, if they score again and then get an onside kick or whatever, you're looking at possibly seeing that game turn. So this play was huge. It's third down. Dixie State forces the Colorado Mesa player out of the pocket. He's on the run, throws a pass, and this will lead us up to our Honolulu Grill highlight of the week. This is what you would have seen and heard on the football game on Saturday.
Third down and 4. Bollinger forced out to his right. He'll heave downfield, and it is intercepted! Intercepted! Incredible! Cajun Smith-McGrevich!
Oh, my
Caught the ball with his feet off the ground out of bounds and tossed it back to J.T. Anderson, who caught the ball inbound.
So that is your Honolulu Grill highlight of the week. I think my ears are still ringing from all the yelling we were doing up in the booth, Drayson. We were on the call of that one, and it's been incredible to see and hear that play on ESPN, on SportsCenter, on CBS Sports Network, on various social media accounts. That play has been viewed. It was SportsCenter top 10. It was the number 1 play on Saturday night. That play has been viewed on Instagram over 1 million times, judging by the number of views on the SportsCenter's post the next day on Sunday. Just from all the traffic that our posts generated, whether it was us or was someone taking that and sharing it, it was viewed over almost 100,000 times. It's gone viral. What a play! And it was SportsCenter top 10 number 1. It was the top play in Division II football. They just announced that yesterday. And then it's our Honolulu Grill highlight of the week. Drayson, we got 90 seconds left on the show. Well, what more can we say about that play than we haven't already?
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to be a part of. We've had a lot of fun moments, with this football team all season long. And I mean, that one is going to be one I'll remember for the rest of my life. And if you haven't seen the video, we should note, if you have not seen this video, if maybe you're listening on the radio on your way home from work and you heard the audio, but you haven't actually seen it, Dixie State Athletics Twitter. You can go on the Dixie State Athletics Twitter page. You can find it there posted. It's going to be on Dixie State Athletics YouTube as well. So if you go on youtube.com/Dixie State Athletics, you can find it there as well. Just an unbelievable play. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It's over 18,000 views right now on Twitter, and just absolutely fun. It was fun to talk to Cajun Smith-McGrevich about just the reaction. It was fun to hear him say, I didn't even think about SportsCenter top 10. And I can see that, like, he's a Division II school, and his games aren't nationally televised and that kind of thing, and I can understand why he might think he has no chance to even make it on SportsCenter. But really, the power of social media is that we got this thing trending. Credit to Trailblazer Nation throughout the entire southern Utah area, throughout social media, Twitter, retweeting it, liking it, and tagging everyone that necessary to get this thing to really blow up. And it was just really fun to see how it transpired over the entire weekend, and just something I'll remember for forever.
Absolutely incredible. What a weekend it was, and it could be another phenomenal weekend this weekend as well if Dixie State can go on the road and get a win at number 8 Colorado School of Mines. Of course, women's soccer is taking on MSU Denver in the RMAC tournament. Men's soccer is taking on Westminster in the RMAC tournament. That's Westminster, not that came out all at once. And then volleyball on the road as well, taking on Regis and Colorado Christian. Our time is up. They're screaming at me from the control room. Carrick, stop talking. We've got to end the show. Thanks for watching and listening today. We thank our CEC TV crew, Radio Dixie crew. It's going to be a great weekend of Trailblazer Athletics, so stay tuned, and we'll catch you next week on Trailblazer Weekly. Go Trailblazers.